isn't good, he is good, but because Clegg has arrived and he is now in the Cameron spot. If we'd had Gordon Brown, Ming Campbell and David Cameron, David would have been the new boy on the block. But somebody we never heard of 3 weeks ago is now the fresh face. And David has now been moved to the side, and we've got a new hero, a new little glossy, Bambi, Diana-like person waiting for Martin Bashir to ask him some questions so he can look touched and interesting. And David is just sort of standing there trying to look statesmanlike, but oh... So I think this is really a serious issue for David Cameron. I really do.
Was the wine good tonight?
I'm the only person sober in the entire country. I don't drink, but I was almost driven to it tonight. 90 minutes of that was really almost too much.
Well, I had a question for you, but since you've answered another one, I'll ask Michael a question. Last week was a game changer, the debate. What was the significance of tonight?
I thought all three men did perfectly well, actually. I thought Clegg did almost as well as last week, held his position. I think the important thing, in a way, was that the other two now treated him as an equal contender. So they felt they had to make some limited attacks on Nick Clegg. They couldn't just allow him to be inviolate in his position. But, of course, each time they do make their limited attacks, they're kind of confirming the idea that this is a three-party race now.
The significance, I would suggest, of tonight is that it confirms the new architecture in British politics that was created by last week's debate. It's now a three-way split.
Yes, they both, I think, did more or less the same. But let me just say this, as someone that's been knocking on doors ever since you last saw me. This debate thing has had an extraordinary effect on the electorate, and there's a big segment of my electorate. You knock on the door, they say, oh yes, we voted for you in the past time, and saying, what are you going to do in this election? They said, oh, we're waiting to watch the debate. It really has transformed the electorate's thinking, and what we're getting is almost a form of pop idol, a sort of presidential pop idol, and the danger is that we're moving towards a presidential system with none of the checks and balances of the United States.
Well, Charles Kennedy, your man, he wasn't the runaway victory of last week.
No.
But he kind of consolidated his position tonight.
Yeah, this was a much more difficult act for him, if you like, tonight than a week ago. A week ago, Giles is absolutely right. He was the guy that wasn't spotted in the radar and he went away and stole the show. This week, of course, a lot more riding on it. What I think was interesting, and I think it is this point about the political engagement is now changing. The architecture's changing as you watch. Even the way Cameron and Brown are having to deal with the hung parliament issue rather meekly. Not this, oh, forget about them, it's a wasted vote. Oh, they can't say that one and not insult people's intelligence. I think the interesting thing about what Nick did, I agree with Michael, thought it was, if you're a viewer who was impressed with Nick Clegg this time last week, you would still be impressed for the same reasons with Nick Clegg this time this week. But where you might say, but I don't think I'll be voting for those Liberal Democrats, is, surprise, surprise, our policies are now being seriously discussed by the Prime Minister and the leader of the Conservatives. You think, oh, Europe, well, that's where they're coming from, don't like that. Now, you can't argue about that in the sense that the old argument, we don't know what you stand for, more and more, millions more now do. And some of them like it, and some of them say, oh, sorry, your man's okay, but I don't agree with that, and that one's a game changer for me.
Give me your assessment, Giles, of David Cameron's performance tonight.
A very solid, good performance, better and more confident than last week. The frustration, if actually you're an activist or a candidate, is that actually there are 670 constituencies out there. There are several thousand people standing in this election. It's now become about 3 people.
Yes.
And the frustration for activists is that it's actually now how the leaders perform is how it's going to be seen. And talking this week to Labour friends and Conservative friends, they are so furious that Clegg has been allowed to come centre stage. This election is now about somebody we had not heard of a month ago. It's a 3-party race, and Labour people and Conservative people loathe Liberals. We make 1 or 2 exceptions, but on the whole, we loathe Liberals. And they're now getting all this, thanks to you, the media now, treating these 3 parties as though they have equal billing. We're spending, here we are, another 45 minutes talking about this unknown person.
They got 25% of the vote at the last election.
Indeed.
Why shouldn't they?
A quarter of the vote.
It's only well, how much? Labour only got about, what, 36% to win?
Yeah,
they are
slightly less.
Indeed.
Slightly less.
But the point is, the game
Tories
has been...
got 33.
The game
What's
has
the
been
difference?
reinvented, and I think from David Cameron's
And
point
it should
of
have
view...
been reinvented.
To answer your question, David Cameron did very well. He was quite statesmanlike, he gave some good answers.
All right,
but
I got that
it was
bit.
not the breakout moment, was there?
There was not the breakout moment. moment, assess Gordon Brown's performance.
I think he gave a very sound performance, genuinely. I thought he was a little bit better than last week. And I think we have to remember that it's possible to win these debates like Ross Perot did in the United States, but actually people think you're a great debater, but in the end they don't vote for you.
How did you assess Mr. Cameron tonight?
I thought he was a good deal better than last week. He was addressing the camera. I thought those were strong moments. There was a fair amount of passion. He was also more careful about what he was doing when he wasn't at the focus of the camera, when you could see him in the background.
You still saw him frowning a bit there.
I didn't think he did frown nearly as much as last week.
Okay.
And I'll tell you something I was quite impressed by. There's been a lot of speculation about how David would change his tactics. Would he become very aggressive towards Clegg or very aggressive towards Gordon Brown? The answer is he decided to do neither. So he stuck with the tactic that he decided upon initially, and I think he gets marks for that. So when he was attacked, he would simply say, "You're using scare tactics," and then he'd get on with what he had to say.
But he
So
he doesn't have to be aggressive because he has a Tory press to put the knife in.
Well, can I just say something about Tory press, your moment of the week? I think Tory press has made a massive error. I mean, partly because some of these stories are absolute rubbish. I haven't even bothered to read them, they're so stupid. But also, if you put Clegg on every front page of every newspaper, together with his photograph, I mean, that is doing him a lot of good. That's taking him seriously.
Can I just point that Mr. Cameron's position in the polls has declined ever since the Sun came out for him?
Is this cause and effect?
This Tory press is not all it's cracked up to be. The campaign was hijacked by the debate last week in the sense that the campaign almost went on hold and everybody then waited for tonight. We're now getting into the final furlong of the campaign. Does it go on hold for another week, or do things now start to happen?
I think it does. I think there'll be endless dissection of tonight, and then there'll be the build-up, and now it's the final encounter.
The big one.
It's the big one.
The big one.
Of course, in the interim, and this is the key thing, about 10% of the votes in this election, and in what's nip and tuck, perhaps, this could be absolutely vital in all these hundreds of constituencies that Giles rightly talking about, are going to be cast. The postal votes are going to be away before the third debate even is on air.
Yeah.
So, this is really changing the whole dynamic.
An election about 3 debates is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And if you are on the campaign trail as an activist, walking up those paths, putting a leaflet through those wretched letterboxes with the upturned scrubbing brushes, meeting the people, it's just very frustrating.
What's
it's
the
simply,
upturned scrubbing brush?
If you
He's
Clearly never
been
put
campaigning.
leaflets through a
It's a certain kind of letterbox.
it's the letterbox that's got...
Catches your hand.
Yeah,
Put your
we've all
hand in
been
and it
through
gets stuck.
That's very interesting.
And if you're very unlucky, there's a dog on the other side.
There always
don't
is.
go there. You've spanned broadcast and politics. How was tonight's event as a TV event? Was it less X Factor than the first one, a bit more substance?
There was a bit more substance. I thought it was better presented. I thought it was better produced, actually, as an entertainment. They all looked good. They actually all did well. They came over, actually,
fine.
as well, and they reinforced one's view of them. Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. He played the experience card. David Cameron was straightforward. He looked to us. And
I must say
Clegg
that my American friends who've been watching them in the United States have been rather impressed by the quality of the debate.
They are much,
thought there was
much
lots of
better
substance.
than the Obama-McCain debates.
I think
Much
they're better than the American
We actually got
presidential
some.
debates.
We got some policy moments, and David Cameron actually made up some policy. I think that stuff about the eyes was actually made up on the hoof.
Made up on
Charles, we have to move on. I'll leave you to get back to your letterboxes.
I will. I'm going out campaigning overnight.
You learn something every night. Usually of no use at all. Charles Brander, thanks for joining us, being such a good sport. For the rest of you, no sneaking off to bed, because we want to get you in a patriotic mood. St. George's Day starts in just a few moments. Hurrah! So go raise the flag, slip into your Union Jack knickers, or if you've got